Alright, party people, welcome back to the pod. Are you excited? I'm excited. This is gonna be the intro video to, I don't know what I'm gonna call this series, but it's going to be, um, another fitness program, um, where we're going to be looking at Shotokan Karate, or as Americans usually will say, karate. So I'll probably just be saying karate, but the style is gonna be Shotokan. And I'm gonna talk a little bit about my own history with martial arts, which is very brief, not too in depth, but there's often been I've been drawn toward it. So um let me just get some definitions out of the way first. So I'm gonna look up on Wikipedia. I'm gonna look up Shotokan Karate and also look up karate in general. So karate, according to Wikipedia, basically it says karate do is a martial art developed in the Ryukyu Kingdom. It developed from the indigenous Ryukyuan martial arts called Te, meaning hand, Ti in Okinawan, under the influence of Chinese martial arts. While modern karate is primarily a striking art that uses punches and kicks, traditional karate training also employs throwing and joint locking techniques. A karate practitioner is called a karateka. Now there is going to be some definition information that we will be looking at. And hopefully by the end of this, we will know what it is that, some of the terminology is. We will have memorized some of it. I don't know how long we're going to do this for. I'm going to say, let's see how far 30 days takes us. I would like to at least get to one belt or two belts as far as testing, and then go from there. So I feel like that's a manageable goal to at least attempt it and see what happens in the next 30 days. So starting September 15th of 2025, going all the way to all the way to October 15th of 2025, which is my father's birthday. And so we will be looking at 30 days worth and seeing how far we can get. I mentioned before that I need to try to find some kind of a syllabus or something. And I do have access to a couple good YouTube channels as well as a book. And so the YouTube channels are free. They have tons of free content. I'll be looking through a lot of that stuff. And then the YouTube channels are free. The book that I purchased, I keep talking about, the Shotokan Karate Bible, Beginner to Black Belt. I purchased that years ago. There's a second edition now. The first edition is an orange cover. The second edition is a little bit newer. You can find them on Amazon or elsewhere. I bought a hard copy in person at Barnes and Noble, and this was so long ago. But it's a good book. Glossy pages, color, and it shows you mostly everything. My goal is to focus on katas. Other people might have their goals, but I want to focus on katas, the memorization of them. One of my issues is that I might not have enough space to do this, but I'll do what I can. So it says, beginning in the 1300s, early Chinese martial artists brought their techniques to Okinawa. Despite the Ryukyu kingdom being turned into a puppet state by Japanese samurai in 1609 after the invasion of Ryukyu, its cultural ties to China remained strong. Since Ryukyuans were banned from carrying swords under samurai rule, groups of young aristocrats created unarmed combat methods as a form of resistance, combining Chinese and local styles of martial arts. Training emphasized self-discipline. This blend of martial arts became known as karate, karate, which translates to Chinese hand. They mentioned before that te means hand, so kara must mean Chinese. I don't really know. I do not know this language. I don't know if that's an Okinawan language. Is this Japanese or Okinawan? I don't know. We'll find out over time. There's going to be a lot of lessons going on for myself. But it says it's a parenthood indigenous martial arts of Ryukyu Islands, Chinese martial arts. Initially, there were no uniforms, colored belts, ranking systems, or standardized styles. Many elements essential to modern karate were actually incorporated a century ago. And I'm not just gonna read to you guys the whole time. Now let's look at Shotokan in particular. Shotokan, I don't know where the accent goes, but Shotokan is a style of karate developed from various martial arts. I'm reading from Wikipedia. By Gichin Funakoshi, 1868 through 1957, and his son Gigo Yoshitaka Funakoshi, 1907 to 1945. Wow, he did not live very long, unfortunately. Gichin Funakoshi was born in Okinawa and is widely credited with popularizing Karate-Do through a series of public demonstrations and by promoting the development of university karate clubs, including those at a bunch of different places that seem to be mostly Japanese words. So basically, we might look back into some of this other literature on Wikipedia later on. We're just looking at an overview. I don't want to make it as boring as is humanly possible at the very beginning, but I think, we need to at least have some basic background. Um, we'll keep adding and building as we go, of course. We've got 30 days to get through this. So, and this is just an intro episode. It's just going to explain just generally where I'm coming from with all this, the goals that I have with it all. And then we'll go from there. I mean, I'll have to figure out how I'm going to be talking about this for 30 days or periodically over a 30-day period. I don't know if I'm really going to be able to record every single day for 30 days or if I'm going to have to batch record individual episodes and pre-schedule the postings, or if I'm going to have to do like I did with the Matthew Davies winnersonlyfitness.com information and have to kind of stack the episodes just when I have time to do it and just go through things. That way, I don't like doing it that way, but sometimes that's easier for me. If I do get behind, that's what it comes to sometimes. So I asked Google how many types of karate exist, and they basically gave me the answer. It's generally accepted that the four main styles of karate are Goju Ryu. Ryu means style, RYU. Shotokan, Wado Ryu, and Shito Ryu. There are also many less prominent styles, including Chito Ryu, Isshin Ryu, Kyokushin, Shorin Ryu, and Uechi Ryu. So, it looks like this Japanese Martial Arts Center has ranked their website.com. It says Shotokan is the most popular karate style taught around the world. Um, and I guess it says Shotokan is the most respected style. What is the weakest belt in karate? The lowest belt rank in karate is white. It represents innocence and a lack of training. From that point on, the color of belts can vary depending on the system. The orange and purple belts may appear in different systems. Alright, so let me just talk about some of my own personal background. I really don't have way too much to say, which is why I kind of had to start with some introductory stuff too. But I talked about this somewhat, but I guess I would say for a lot of my life, since about grade, well, since about grade 2, I was coming to the city of Torrance, because I was raised in a religious background where the church was in Westchester in Los Angeles, closer to LAX airport, and the there was a religious school in Torrance, and so the school allowed us was through the church. It allowed us to use this field that they have for their back field, and my dad and his friend and maybe a couple other people were a big part in starting a sports league for the Adventist church for the most part. And they invited a lot of schools and people from LA County, from pretty much LA, IE, OC. I mean, they just promoted through the churches, through the schools, and word of mouth, and people came and signed up. So I think we played soccer when I was in second grade, and I met this boy. My dad was coaching our team. Me and this boy were pretty much bench warmers. We didn't get a lot of time on the field. At least, I don't know, maybe we rotated out a lot, but I remember me and this kid were always sitting on the bench together on the field during our games. And he was a Japanese kid, and he asked me once, he's like, "Will you be my friend?" And I was like, "Yes, sure." And so we would like play with worms and butterflies and stuff like underneath the bench. And like, how pee wee soccer is, like the kids aren't really fully paying attention. And I don't even remember how the soccer went. I just remember the team I was on was called the Orioles, and we had like a light yellow Hanes t-shirt. That first year, we only had just like solid colored Hanes t-shirts, maybe for the first 2 seasons, I can't remember. But then we started having um, jerseys with shirts and shorts and socks. And I think the first year we either got a certificate or a medal. Everybody got one. Um, I don't remember what year we started getting the little plastic trophies, but we started getting them eventually. And so I, once third grade hit, um, I was no longer gonna go to the public school in Westchester. I started going where I went. I went to that school from kindergarten through second grade, and then we started going to the Adventist school in third grade. And lo and behold, that same kid was was in my third grade class. We both started at that school the same year. So we became besties from that point on, and we saw each other all the time. And he was really into Japanese cultural stuff. I was too, and being around Torrance, it's got a very high population of Japanese people. I think it's second to, I don't know if it's second to Hawaii, but I think Torrance, California is considered, and it's in LA County, it's considered, I don't know if it's the highest population of Japanese people or Japanese businesses outside of Japan and Hawaii. So basically, there's a pretty large Japanese population. There's a lot of car dealerships. There's a lot of restaurants. A lot of like hidden stuff that you might not know would be Japanese. And I think some of the Japanese market headquarters are in Torrance. I don't fully know, but either way, third grade comes around. Me and this boy are buddies. And back then, like I have a brother who's 2 years younger than me, and we were, taught to get along. So we used to play sports at home and play pickup games with kids, around, just church related community people, and around the neighborhood and stuff. We used to play hockey, like street hockey, roller hockey, basketball, soccer. We didn't really get into too much baseball because we live in a city and it's like you can't really hit a baseball, but we play like three flags up, like catching with a mitt, or like, um, we'd ride bikes, and sometimes we'd play kind of like martial arts type of playing around. Me and my brother were kind of like into it. We were kind of into like break dancing and like all kinds of stuff. Like we were outside a lot. Like I think pretty much until Nintendo came around, we were almost always outside. And so we had a good time, an enjoyable time, just like playing all the time. Um, and but this boy that I knew, he wasn't super athletic. He was more of like a homebody kind of kid, but very, very sweet. And I liked hanging out with him, and we had a good time, and we got along great. And back then, at least to my knowledge, manga, if you know manga and anime, it wasn't very popular in the US yet, and so it wasn't often easy to find books that were translated from Japanese into English. And so this boy, he would bring manga to school, and during recess or like lunch break and stuff, he would sit and like read those comic books, and he would kind of read them to me. And I think the first one he read to me was Doraemon. I was like obsessed with it. I don't even, how kids get obsessed with stuff. And so I remember taking home the comic books, or he let me borrow them, and I would draw the characters, and write the Japanese character, write the I would draw the characters like Nobita, and I would write I learned how to spell the name Nobita, and I went from there, and I learned my friend's last name in Japanese with the kanji, and learned how to spell that. Then I picked up different words like yen, or numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I knew how to write those in kanji, or like water or tea, or I don't know, certain stuff that I would see in the markets that I would like know how to spell it. And then I started studying katakana, and then I started studying hiragana, and eventually I got into like shogi, which is like kind of like a Japanese chess game. And like, because I was hanging out with this kid all the time, and he was sharing his culture with me, and I was like cool with it. So when I wasn't running around playing sports with boys or other girls who played sports, I would hang out with him, and we would just chill, read books, but we'd kind of like enjoy his cultural stuff, and I was into it. So I got into Japanese cultural stuff that way, from just naturally living in the area with a lot of Japanese people, being exposed to the culture, having a friend who was Japanese American, who in his household there was a lot of Japanese culture, and we hung out a lot, but mostly at school. But we went to school like 5 days a week, so we saw each other for years. I still know this guy. I was literally texting him yesterday. 40 years old now, and we still talk. We don't hang out as much, but we catch up. But we started reconnecting over martial arts more recently, since like maybe last year in 2024. But me and him got along. We talked a lot, we hung out a lot, we got to know each other a lot. And along the way, with being engaged with like manga content, and later being exposed to like anime content, themes of martial arts kind of would come up, and I was interested in it. And I remember we used to have these library days where every so often we would take our library cards, and with our class, we would walk down to the library. So maybe we would have like school until maybe like 10 o'clock or something. Then we'd walk down to the library, and we learn. There'd be some kind of lesson at the library that we learn about like the Dewey Decimal System or something like that. Learn how to like check out books. Back then they had like those little. They didn't print out receipts. They had those little like library physical cards where they would like stamp it, and we would basically take our card and check out books. And so I remember me and him saw a bunch of martial arts books that had like the pictures of how to do it, and me and him checked out. I think both of us checked out a book or something, or maybe one of us did, and borrowed it back and forth until it was due. I really don't remember, because we had another trip where we went back to the library to be able to return the books. I can't remember if we weren't allowed to take the books home and had to leave them at school. I don't remember this at all. But we basically had the books, and we enjoyed reading, learning, and then the school had a rule where we weren't allowed to play fight, or fight, but we weren't allowed to play fight. And so me and him would be like practicing. There was this Japanese lady teacher who was an attendant on the playground who saw us one day because somebody was like, they're play fighting all the time, you know. And she would kind of keep an eye, and she saw us, and she was like, she saw us doing like knuckle push-ups on our knuckles or trying to do that and like jumping jacks and stuff like that. Um, and we tried to learn from these books, but I guess we did get a little bit discouraged because there was this one obnoxious boy in our class who was very talented at sports and music, and he would like tease us and be like, "You're learning from a book. You can't learn from a book." And you know, I guess I don't know if he was jealous or what, but he would always be coming up and telling us, "You can't learn from a book," you know. But our parents didn't, like, we were kids, like our parents didn't enroll us in like martial arts classes, and so it's like, well, how else are we gonna learn? This is like pre-YouTube, so you learned everything from a book. And so we had these books from the library, and that was, other than movies and stuff, that was just about our only way to formally learn. So we didn't get that far because usually during recess we would do the warm up. That would take all of recess, and then during the lunch break, we would try to do some of the forms and stuff. And I think we kind of learned them, but we never really put everything together. And we didn't really do that together too long. After we stopped doing the library stuff, we kind of just never really did it together too much. But over the years, decades at this point, we kind of stayed in touch and stayed interested with the same thing. And then fast forward all the way to like, well, I would like play with my brother too. So we used to have bathrobes. I remember doing this. I was probably in like sixth grade, maybe seventh grade. We were too old to be doing this and not get made fun of, but we would be at home in our backyard and have like a bathrobe on and maybe some sweats underneath. And we had this little bamboo, we had this like a bunch of bamboo growing in the corner of our yard. So we would break off some of the sticks and basically play fight, and we would just like smack each other with the, we weren't injuring each other at all, but we would like try to like spar and practice different techniques. And I remember one of my friends was doing taekwondo, and so I always asked her to teach me stuff, and she she taught me some things, and I would somewhat try to practice that. And then there was this other uh, kid who was our next door neighbor when we still lived in um, Westchester. We moved from Westchester to Torrance in like 1999, 1998, somewhere around there. Um, and so, yeah, we were basically, we would smack each other. Me and my brother would play, and like, but we would never, I don't ever remember getting injured. We were just totally having fun. We would play sports together and stuff too. But in addition to that, we would do like martial arts kind of sparring from what we would learn from our neighbor. So our neighbor used to always be like, let's spar. And we would kind of wrestle with him. Usually it was wrestling. We didn't really kick or punch too much, but we usually did. And then we'd usually kind of get like a takedown. And it would usually be my brother versus me and my brother versus him. And I remember when he had an orange belt, or when he got his orange belt and he came home and he was like so excited that he got it. Um, and I remember like seeing kids around me, like those couple kids around me who I was like, I really wanted to join, but like, I was a kid, so like if my parents don't sign me up for something, I can't just like go do it by myself. And that one boy who was always teasing me and my friend, one day I saw this, when we still lived in Westchester, I saw this place that had opened in a little plaza near where we went for something. I don't know what we would buy there, but there was some reason why we were in this plaza, and I saw that they had newly opened this Kung Fu Sansu um, spot there for kung fu classes. I think it was $20 a month, and it said something about you get a uniform after a month or something. I don't remember, but it was like a one-page flyer. I still remember it was like dark orange, dark yellow colored, and I kept that flyer. I remember reading it over and over and like really wanting to join. And then once I showed it to that guy, we used to carpool with the guy who was obnoxious, who was teasing me and my friend. Me and my family used to carpool with him because we lived all the way in Westchester and were going to Torrance. And so we had a friend in Ladera Heights, the pastor's family in El Segundo, and then this guy who lived on the other side of Westchester, and we lived on another side of Westchester. So between all four of our families, we would, I don't know how it worked. My parents and their parents had an arrangement of who would drive what day, and they would each drive like a leg to or from. And so, no, it's not like all four families were driving to and from all the time. They kind of broke it up a little bit, and it relieved the burden more. And so, and we all went to like church and school and sports league and all this stuff. So a lot of these kids, I saw them all the time. This obnoxious kid, he's one of those kids I saw probably every day. Because we went to church together and we played sports league together. And we carpooled together. And so I remember probably at carpool, I showed him the flyer in the car, and it was LA. We're always sitting in LA traffic. But we were kids, we weren't driving, so we would just talk or whatever. And I showed him the flyer, like, I really want to join this, like, really bad. I really wanted to, like, join it. And then he was like, ooh. And I think he got a flyer and took it to his mom or something. And his mom let him join that kung fu class. And I remember asking him to teach me. So he taught me, like, the first move, which was like a block where you kind of say, like, I think the word was yak. You say yak instead of like yai or whatever, you say yak. And so he was like showing me how to do it. But I guess I laughed because he was saying to say yak, and I thought it was funny because, like, the animal, a yak. And so then he was again being obnoxious, and he was like, fine, if you're gonna laugh, I'm not gonna teach you. So he only really taught me that one move, and I remember like begging and begging and being like, please, please, just like, I'm sorry, I'll never do it again. But he was like, no, like he gave me like one chance and then just like never taught me anything but that one move. Um, so I was a little bitter about it. I mean, I still remember it to this day. But I was like, he was kind of a jerk of a kid, but some of us were. I'd say all of us kind of had that in us where we could kind of be a bit of a jerk sometimes, but he was kind of like that. So I learned like one move from him, and I still wanted to join. I used to beg my parents to like put me in the class or whatever, but they didn't want to pay for it. And I was already playing sports league on Sundays, and so I didn't really have a way to learn. Um, but I think once Kenpo X came out on P9, with P90X came out, I think I was doing Kenpo X. I would have been like in college or something by that point. And then I think I did Tap Out, which was more of like a kind of more like grappling and MMA. Um, and I think on the Gaia app, there was like maybe one or two lessons for like capoeira, so I did like one or two of those lessons kind of things. Like just like video tutorials that are like fitness video type of things. So that was about as much as I learned. And then my same Japanese friend, he had like punching bags and boxing gloves and like all that kind of stuff. So every so often we do that at his house, like very rarely, but every so often at his parents' house. And then uh let me see. Fast forward all the way to like probably the Rona when I was in San Diego. Um I purchased a gi. I don't know when I got this Shotokan Karate Bible book. Um but sometime I think I think I was living in San Diego when I bought it, but I bought it in Torrance. And then, because I would still come back and forth to Torrance. But I bought the book, I don't know when. And here and there practiced it. So I've only really gone through up to like the first form, and I haven't really learned much past that because I'm not disciplined with it. I don't really try too hard with it. Usually I incorporate it into part of my workouts for a little bit of flexibility, but I'm not really like learning it a lot. And I remember during the Rona, I purchased this gi offline. It was like from some Korean site or something. So I remember I would like practice a little bit of that, and that's about as far as I got. So I'm pretty much wanting to go through this whole book because I've had it for years. And the bestie, the Japanese dude, he told me, I guess I want to say maybe this month or last month, sometime this summer, he told me that he's making a dojo at his place. So he's got these tatami mats. He just sent me another picture of it yesterday, so it's coming along. I think he said all he needs now are lights. Um, and he's installing an AC unit, that he has an extra AC unit to install. And so once it's ready, he's gonna let me know. So I'm kind of motivated to practice on my own, so that once it's ready, I'll have a place where there's punching bags and the flooring and the space to be able to go and like practice katas a little bit more, maybe even spar with him if he wants to. I don't really think I want to, but I could learn from him because he passed his purple belt test pretty recently, so he's a lot more advanced. I know him. We live near each other. Now the gym does have punching bags. They have 4 long hanging punching bags, which is cool, but um yeah, they have 4 of them, but um I'm not really like using them there. Like I'd rather do it in a space where there's not a bunch of people. So because it's one of those things when people see you doing something, they're gonna watch you doing it. And I don't really want that. Like I'm self-conscious enough. I don't really want that. But I want to learn. I want to be able to do 1 to 2 katas. Maybe not by the end of 30 days. I don't know how long it's really gonna take, but I want to know at least how to do 1 to 2. It would be nice to do maybe like 2 belts, however long that would take, and use it to work on my fitness. Now I'm also gonna keep training with the Matthew Davies fitness information. So whatever I kind of do on there, I'll explain it, but I'm not gonna do 2 programs at once. I'm basically gonna be, because I still have to get like in better shape. Like, um, I'm not just gonna do the karate stuff. I'm gonna do other stuff. Like I still have to do like other cardio stuff. I still have to do lifting, stretching, all that kind of stuff. So I'm still gonna keep doing that for conditioning. We'll see.